Good evening, everyone. I'm Memory Pines, and this is Speak Your Peace. This has been powered by Above and Beyond Treatment Facility, located at 2942 West Lake Street. And the people at Above and Beyond, the counselors, they have an outreach van, and if you see it on the street, please stop, get you some help, or help somebody else, get them some help. Remember, I always say, the life that you save may very well be your own. I'm sitting here with two gentlemen, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. And starting here.
Sure. My name is Alexander Perez. I'm a police district counselor for the 2nd District.
To my right.
Good evening. My name is Ephrain. I'm the 2nd District Police Counselor for the 2nd District of the City of Chicago.
And we have been here having a conversation, and we're talking about, I want them to tell us exactly what they do there. Tell the public what you do as the police council.
Oh, as you know, last year we were elected by the citizens of our district, and for the 2nd District, it comprises from 63rd Street to the south, down to 31st Street to the north, and we go from Wentworth to the west, all the way to the lake on the east. The citizens elected us to help the Chicago Police Department become better aligned with the citizens in our district, meaning we were elected to try to bridge the gap, act as ambassadors for goodwill of our
Liaison between the public and the police department, which helps us to be better, safe out here on these streets, and to get better services. Also, can I ask you, how long have you been on the with the council?
We've been in office for a little over a year and some change now. We came in February 28th. We started, I think, in May. We officially were sworn in. So yeah, it's about a year and like three months we've been in office now.
Yeah, it's been a year and May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, a year and 3 months.
Yeah. So
well, can you tell me what have been some of the difficulties that you have been facing, Mr. Ephrain?
What we've discovered is that you catch it almost from both organizations, right? You catch it from the political organization because we're not well known. You know, everybody's trying to figure out our angle. A lot of the district councils were activists. So we're looked at with suspicion over from the political side, and then that translates over to being looked at with a side eye from the police. The police are trying to figure out in themselves, what is our angle? What are we here to do? Just add one more rope. I like to look at Chicago police like Gulliver's Travels, you know, and where the Lilliput. And the police are like, what is just one more rope to control what we do, how we police this city, something you know nothing about what we see and all that. So we're doing our best to try to explain to them that they're their own worst enemy.
How about, are you allowed to ride along with the police and to go to certain places? How about when you go on a call and we have some psychiatric issues? Have you been in that type of situation?
So yes, we can go on what's called a ride-along. So that's essentially what you're describing as a ride-along. We can do that. It's not voluntary, or it's not mandatory. It's voluntary. We haven't done a ride-along ourselves, but you know that's something we definitely would like to do. Now to the second part of the question you're asking, like you know calls that relate to the mental health. We actually don't have anything like that in our district. So you're referring to the CARES program. I think you might be referring to, which is an alternative response where like officers plus a mental health clinician respond to mental health emergencies and not just two plainclothes officers. We have been looking, so I'm part of, we have working groups within our body as well that work on police accountability, transparency, public safety. So one of those buckets that we work on is mental health. And so we are working with the Chicago Department of Public Health to actually create a ride-along for district counselors so that way they can see firsthand what a alternative response looks like when a CARES team shows up. And it's not, like I said, it's not just two plainclothes officers. It's a mental health professional, licensed clinician, an officer. You got a paramedic. So it's a multi-purpose response.
It's a team.
It's a team. Yeah, it's a multidisciplinary team, I should say.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding. Is that you guys will talk with the citizens to see what they need in their communities. Because you got a large stretch. You said from 51st to 31st, right? 63rd to 31st. From Whitworth
To the lake.
to the lake. That's a big stretch.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with a marginalized group. You're dealing with gangs in that area. In some of those pockets is gangs. You're also dealing with the migrants.
That was very big.
Yeah.
That was very big. Yeah.
So tell me what a day might look like for you.
Well, right now, a day would be, of course, we would talk to our liaison, which is Danette. And right now, we would talk amongst ourselves to decide what we're going to do for a meeting. We have monthly meetings.
Yeah.
And when we have those monthly meetings, we put out information that's vital to what we feel the community would want to know about. So, case in point, we had a meeting one time where we talked about the labyrinth of how difficult it is to fire a police officer. Right, a third counselor who was resigned, she really brought that topic up. We've had one time we've had Councilor Perez. He actually brought in individuals to help us understand how they are out here now trying to save victims of gun violence by teaching them life-saving techniques on how to tie tourniquets and how to stop bleeding. And as the young lady said, keep the blood in the body.
Okay.
So, yeah, we try to put out information that we feel is vital. And what we want to do is take that even further and bring in more officers, detectives. I met with a detective, Sergeant Martinez, I think his last name was, and he told me about the family liaison office that they're trying to help victims of violence have a connection to the police until their case is solved. So these are all things that we're definitely trying to do in this new organization that we're in.
Well, I want to ask you about this newest hottest topic that's going on. The shooting that happened on the Blue Line. You all are also in the area that you have, that's the red line. So we know a lot of crime is happening on the CTA, and a lot of police activity is going to those trains. What do you see? And people in the public are scared to ride the trains in the CTA. They don't want a camera. 2 hours later, I want somebody there to help me right now. Okay? So I want, yeah. Back in the day, they used to have the gentleman or the person to walk the conductor. They still have that on Metro. So why it's not CTA? At least they can see that the atmosphere in the car is changing. Or they might be the one to call for help when you can't call for help. But we would like some security on that train. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first thing, what happened on the Blue Line was an absolute tragedy.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to say that it was preventable, but then it's not preventable. Because if you read the reports on the young man, he had a couple of arrests for gun violations. And the webbing is so thick that we can always say, well, he should have stayed in. How did he get a weapon? How did he have a gun? We still don't know the aspects of why he did the shooting, but we know it was mental illness involved because the average individual does not get on CTA and just decide to go and shoot 4 people. I agree with you. CTA got away a long time with not having the conductors. They took them away. I remember them. They used to drop the little door window down and look out at you and make sure everybody... CTA in a cost-cutting measure from what I believe back then said we just used the train engineer to do it. And that took away a vital piece of the puzzle as far as feeling safe. And they got away with it for a while. I think the pandemic really ripped back the curtain and showed that security is lacking. I remember I come from the era of the Guardian Angels. So I remember how it used to be a priority. And it had to be because you had a lot of strangers coming from all walks of life, mingling in these metal tubes that were shooting down on these tracks. and people needed to feel safe, and CTA kind of dropped the ball on that.
What do you think, Mr. Perez?
Yeah, I think the fear is warranted. Unfortunately, I think what we see in the media. You're right. Folks are scared, and a story like this doesn't help. It exacerbates the fear. I think from what we can do from a district council standpoint is really try to push our office to be a part of that conversation and push for more resources. And what does that look like? That looks like pushing for a workforce allocation study, and looking like where are our officers needed the most, right? What are the hotspots? And now there's data and information that already predicts that. But are those assets being properly deployed in the areas that they need to be deployed?
But it's a twofold that happened with that train. We all know that the gentleman was just out of his mind.
Right.
But what about the guy and the people that was on their sleep? We got homelessness. The gentleman's father spoke that he was a military guy who also was going through some mental illness. We got drug abuse, and this is riding our public transportation. How do we go about collectively as a community, you all being Leon's as a helping to change that narrative up there? How can we get people up there to help those people get into the position to get help for themselves, to get off those trains?
Your organization that you spoke about in the introduction is one way.
Oh, yes. Above and beyond, we go on them trains.
Right.
We talk to
I remember,
those people.
and it's not just the homeless. I remember when I was younger, when you cut school, you just get on the train and ride it back and forth. So I think that where the district council come in, we really need to get involved with not just the police, but the aldermen. We need the mayor, and we need a stronger social net. What we're finding is that individuals are just slipping through pockets of the social net that Chicago has neglected for way too long.
And our police, they seem to not. I know they thin. They are also thin. And that's not an easy job. That is not an easy job. I don't know if that's something that I would allocate for myself. And so I see these people, and they put on that badge, and they go out there and they doing their best because they got so much. I walked in the station last winter, and I got to go over 100 migrants. So they got to be part of that social network to help them, and they taking calls, writing tickets, arresting people, locking up people. They tax too. So how do we help them to better do their job?
I think Council Lee already alluded to us being a part of that conversation. I think it's really motivating our office to again be part of that conversation, but to really support the mayor's initiatives. We're really talking about treatment, not trauma. If we're talking about, like Councilor Lee was talking about, it's layers. It's not a one-dimensional issue. It's a four-dimensional issue. And so us being a part of that puzzle is pushing for a workforce allocation study, pushing for the evolution of what does emergency response look like in 2024 and beyond. Right? You just said that police are doing a lot of things. When at the height of the migrant crisis in Chicago, you're right. The police stations were slammed with migrants, right?
Yes.
They're sleeping there, Yes. They're not. The police are not equipped to do this. All of this in one job, and so we have to look at what is the evolution of service for these type of situations, right?
Right. I would rather see my police be in my neighborhood, patrolling my streets, making sure that we can get to work, making sure that we can come home from work, making sure that the cars are not being broken into. That helps, because also I suffered my car being broken in several times to the tune of $300 a window, and to the point of where when I took it to the winter service, they were saying, "See you next week." So.
And then when you catalytic converter.
Yeah.
And then I looked out down my street. Every other car, the window was broke. It was like a smorgasbord.
Let's look at it like I like to view it like this: when a construction of a building takes place, you have unions that show up. You have different individuals show up. You have the carpenters, the plumbers, you have the electricians.
Right.
And the reason why you have all these is because everyone's specialized in a type of job. And the building can't go up unless everybody do their job right.
That's right.
We're asking too much of the officers right now. We need to come up with a plan on how we as district councilors can work with them, and then as a collective work with other organizations and sit at the table and say, how do we form a safety net where you do your job over here, and that's the law and order, and and you do your job over there, where that's attacking the mental illness aspect and getting to people before it becomes violent, and you do your job over here by bridging that gap between them and the police, and then standing over here and then running to the officers and saying, look, if you made a mistake, that's fine. Sometimes saying I'm sorry will save the city $50,000, $100,000. We have to come up with a way where everybody works
And
together.
treating people with respect.
And treating people with respect. And we have to find a way where we all work together, because right now we're in ciphers. You're doing this over here with your organization, helping those who are on drug abuse. You're doing over here helping the homeless. You're over here trying to stop the criminal acts. But we're all over the board. How
Right.
do we form together so that when you catch someone that's having a mental illness, before the blue line happens, we get them to help. We get them to you. We get them to an organization. You know, the homelessness on the trains. How do we stop them?
And another thing that I also noticed is that I think we at that point where we got the old policing trying to stay, and a new type of policing situation that involves you guys, the you said the CARES team, and it's a struggle.
It's change is always hard. Change. No one likes it, but the reason why we don't still have rotary phones is because of change. The reason why they're talking electrical vehicles is because of change. Change has to happen. You're right. On CPD, I have first a disclaimer. My brother served almost 30 years on CPD, so he saw the things that he tells me about, and so I know that change is possible because I know there's good people. I know there's good officers. I know they're coming out of the academy like bright beacons of light, and they want to change the world. What they're coming into, as me and my colleague have spoken about, you're coming into a kind of a bad situation, a crooked organization somewhat, not that much. And you're right. They like to say that the only way I'm going to hit this hammer is with, the only way I'm going to hit this nail is with this hammer. The only way I'm going to, get this is, and sometimes sometimes a scalpel is needed instead of that machete that you done broke out, right? And we saw it with the DNC that just happened, right? Superintendent Snelling I don't know if it was the Secret Service that really helped them, but they really got to a point where you don't have to be busting heads on national TV to keep order.
Yeah, I think he did a wonderful job.
Change.
He did a good job.
It was not 1968. And that mentality of saying, look, man, look, young lady, look, young man, we can do this in a more fair and equitable manner where the police finally get back the trust and the respect and the love from the citizens they are sworn to police. But we cannot do it unless we teach them to say, accept change, accept the council.
It was truly an inconvenience in my neighborhood, but
you never felt safer.
if you only knew how safe I felt. I got escorted out the alley, right?
Oh, I know, you never felt safe.
But what I did see was people going to the DNC, walking down my neighborhood, feeling safe, being very friendly, and these was people from all over the country. One lady said, "I'm from Colorado," and we was, I was like, "Enjoy yourself at the DNC," and other people was coming from Maine, and they felt safe going down the street
But
in
once
Chicago.
them people left, can the average citizen say the same?
That's what we want to keep. We want to keep that tone.
Can the average citizen walk up? Can the officers? I was out New Year's Eve and I walked past officers and they mean mugging. And I walk up to them and I say, "Man, what's the problem? How you doing?" "I'm fine." "Good. How you doing?" Stop feeling like the only way you approach the citizens is with this gruff exterior. I met one time on Michigan Avenue. She was right at the academy, and she was smiling. And I walked up to her and I said, please don't lose that, but I know you will.
Yeah, well,
See,
yeah.
I know you will. Because if we don't get the officers help, see, that's another thing about the social part, right? The officers are human.
Oh, yeah.
They have children, they have grandparents, they may have issues, they have children that may be autistic, they have wives or husbands or significant others, and they're human.
But you brought up a point that I want to go back to. Above and Beyond is a place that I would like to see the police, instead of taking people to jail when they know that they on drugs or they did something, that can go and get them some help instead of locking them up on 26th Street. They can bring them there and say, this is like a red, this is an emergency situation. Can y'all see and evaluate this person and see if we can get them some help?
Hold on a minute now.
And send them.
It wouldn't be fair now if I said I agree 100% with you, but we can't overlook the criminal act.
No, I'm not looking over the criminal act. I said bring them there. That didn't mean that they let loose. That means that before they get locked up on 26th Street, they advocating some help.
Okay.
They putting them on the path. Okay. They even got a judge over at 26th Street called Judge Burns. They call him the recovery judge because he helps people. But anyway, I have been pleasured to talking with these two gentlemen. And you can always come to Above and Beyond at 2942. We have a graduation, and it is something I'm going to invite you so you can see how this place works, and maybe you can do some workshops and become a linkage with us there at Above and Beyond. And again, can you give us your last thought?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having us on here. I'm a big advocate for public access. It's one of the few places where folks can really, deliver a message unfiltered and, exercise their free speech. So I'm very thankful. But, honestly, learn more about the police district counselors. I think we have a lot of potential that has yet to be tapped. And I think, I look at us like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. Our power comes from the belief of the community. So the more that the community believes in us, the more power that we gain, the more effective that we are.
Mr. Ephrain?
Take your government off of autopilot. Stop feeling like just because you elect people, you step back and they're going to do right by you. Don't do that. You show up. I'm asking you, please show up at our meetings. Hold us accountable. Help us hold the police accountable. Help us hold the aldermen accountable, because it is only by all of us working together that we can put Chicago back on firm footing, where we stop being viewed as this dangerous place that only gets saved during the DNC.
But we're going to make sure that happens. We're going to put that into reality, and we're going to put that out, not into the atmosphere, but we're going to put that into the communities. We're going to put that into the areas. We're going to put that into these treatment facilities. We're going to put that in our social network, and we're going to collectively, as a team, make that happen. Because they have just linked up with Above and Beyond, and we're going to reach out for people and save some lives around here. Again, my name is Memory Pines, and you have been on Speak Your Piece. Have a good day, evening, everyone, and thanks again.
All right,
and
take care.
Tell these guys bye-bye.